Chairman Rose, the main antagonist of Sword and Shield, just cannot catch a break. Recently, as Pokemon Masters has been doing their various villain arc events for each region, they finally made it to Galar with Chairman Rose and Oleana. While I have yet to play through the second half of this at the time of writing, it's really got me thinking about the reception to this character. Is Chairman Rose really a bad villain? Well, IDK, let's talk about it for a bit. While Sword and Shield are honestly pretty good games in the Pokemon series all things considered, most people, even die-hard fans of it, will admit that Rose was one of the weaker villains in Game Freak's pantheon. For one thing, Chairman Rose isn't the traditional villain that we see in these Pokemon games. He's an integral part of the region who's known publicly and carries out this big plan at the end of the game in what he assumes is an attempt to help people of Galar, and when defeated he willingly turns himself in to the authorities. Nowhere near as vile as previous entries, but I wouldn't necessarily call him a bad villain. Aside from just not having the same level of intensity as other villains, some other complaints leveled against Rose were that it's either difficult to follow his reasoning or that he feels ultimately unnecessary to the plot. Both of which I'll address in a moment, but I want to look at him from an actual writing and storytelling perspective, at least the best that I can. Go a little deeper than just, his plan doesn't make sense, therefore he's a bad villain. Stick with me for a second because I feel that this is important. When it comes to a story, you typically have three major components: theme, characters, and plot. The last one really doesn't matter all that much until the end. It should be the themes or characters that come first and will later inform the plot. Looking at Star Wars really quick because it's nice, simple, and easy to follow, one interpretation of the theme could be that of freedom. Luke and the Rebels believe that freedom is inherent to all life in the galaxy and that attaining it will allow them to fulfill their dreams and destinies when they band together. The Empire believes that freedom is a commodity that can be owned and taken from others through force. When they control everything, all's right with the galaxy. Since these characters disagree on the subject of that theme, they have a conflict which drives the plot. So let's look at Pokemon Sword and Shield through the lens of identifying a theme. With all the characters we meet and interact with, it's clear that the theme is legacy. Sonia is researching the legends of the Galar region as her passion project that will allow her to prove herself as the new professor, carrying on from her grandmother. Hop, as the champion's younger brother, believes that now is his time to become the champion and begin building his legacy, while surpassing his older brother. Leon chooses to sponsor Hop as well as the game protagonist to allow them to build their own legacy. However, he wants to hold on to his the best he can because he feels it's now become his duty. That's why he doesn't let you help out with any of the wild Dynamax Pokemon in the middle of the game and why he attempts to stop Eternatus alone. Bede wants to take everything for himself, willing to misuse his elder's Pokemon to dismantle historic landmarks. He doesn't care about the past, he's trying to build things now, but in the most selfish way possible. Marnie has a lot of expectations placed upon her by peers and everybody else in Team Yell, she's just trying to make them happy. And now comes Chairman Rose, whereas everybody else in the story is using the past to inform the decisions they make in the present. Rose devises a plan to abuse the legends of the past and sacrifice the present by ignoring the potential danger in order to save a future so far off that it doesn't even really make sense. It's only when Hop and the protagonist, alongside the heroes of the past, Zacian and Zamazenta, that they're able to save the present. Rose's major character flaw is that as much as he attempts to care for the people living in the here and now, he's still such a big idea guy that he's too obsessed with being the one to save people who don't even exist yet by solving the energy crisis. Again, I think that this part is where a good amount of people lose him. His plan does fit into the theme of legacy pretty well, and it's even expanded the more additional material you watch, but that aforementioned energy crisis isn't shown to be too much of an issue that he needs to solve. If a character is in the wrong, we the audience don't need to be convinced that their plan or perspective is dumb, but when the character's motivations come off as ill-informed or unclear, then it becomes difficult to further suspend our disbelief and enjoy the story. Basically, the theme was done right and on the surface the character was fine, but when it came to the nitty-gritty details, basically the plot, that's where it was a bit lacking. First of all, some concrete things we can do to change this is what a lot of people have suggested: just show us that there is an energy crisis, or at least make the danger appear a bit more immediate. In our real world, we can basically see the effects of climate change every week. But Pokemon has always been this ideal utopia where people and Pokemon live together in harmony, and there's all this cool technology and no pollution and sunshine and rainbows and all that. Like, go ahead and make the Galar region dirty, stinky, have a power outage in some city to serve as a temporary roadblock. Like, Motostoke is truly a disgusting place. I would hate to live there. But aside from that, we have things like the wild area and this beautiful fairy tale forest that is absolutely not in danger of being polluted. Aside from visiting the Galar mines and inferring that this is where they get their main energy source throughout the region, and like I said, seeing all the weird steampunk stuff in Motostoke, we really don't get an idea that there's any immediate environmental danger to the Galar region. Secondly, let's build up Chairman Rose's backstory. In the Pokemon Journeys anime of all things, I feel that they actually did something good. It's very brief, but at one point Rose mentions that growing up as a poor boy, his father worked in the Galar mines but died in an accident, and so he wants to make sure that nobody else has to deal with that. There, literally right there, is the personal motivation he needed to seek an alternate form of energy than traditional means. And guess what? It continues tying into the theme. Rose wants to move on from the past so desperately that he looks only toward the future, potentially in the process straining his relationship with his brother Peony, who, surprise, has a daughter that he's trying his hardest to keep at his side all the time. If you keep the death of their father as the inciting incident, you'd be able to see how they deal with it in different ways. Peony holds on to the past, not wanting his daughter to grow up and leave him while exploring ancient legends in an attempt to do so. And Rose is willing to let a tragedy happen now in order to save a future that hasn't even been written yet. I think that really by changing a little dialogue, adding some better visual representation, and bringing some established lore to the forefront, it might have helped more people to appreciate Chairman Rose as the antagonist of Sword and Shield, highlighting exactly how he fits into all of this. I personally like how he's presented as a regular person who means well but loses sight of what's really important. You know, in a cartoonishly villain sort of way. I still think there's more to do beyond just this, but I did really like these games and what they did with their characters. Though maybe it was deserving of an alternate third version to clean everything up after all. Those are just some of my thoughts on Chairman Rose and a bit of a hint of how I feel we should approach things like this. I don't really claim to be extremely qualified to be talking about story and characters, but I will say that it's what I chose to study. I have loads of homework assignments and documents that are a great example of what exactly not to do. But my motto is never be afraid to fail upwards. So while I have some education experience and way too many hours spent reading and watching other people's stories, don't take my word as law. Don't do that for any YouTuber. I'm usually pretty light on details in videos because I hope that inspires others to look deeper into things on their own and take some time to really think about it themselves. It's not enough to consume entertainment, you need to digest it as well. So let me know what you think about Chairman Rose, and if you'd like to see me eventually discuss other villains in the Pokemon franchise. I know I really want to talk about Giovanni at some point in the future, and I've been cooking up a script about him, and I actually think I lost the script, dang it, where'd it go? So leave a comment down below. Anyway, I've got to get moving on to the next video. There's no time like the present. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, especially the great Gators, Brandon Mork, Cheeseburger Lasers, Justin R, Cosmo Zero, Meme Supreme, Michaela, Mochizuki Yoru, Nomad Nobi, Quago, Taijirai, Volity, and Pastel Blood. If you would like to support, get your name shouted out here as well as access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes early videos, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this has been GatorX, I'll catch you all later.
Coming soon to Nintendo Switch, Pokémon Sword and Pokémon Shield. Catch, battle, and trade never before seen Pokémon. Explore a new region and discover more only on Nintendo Switch. Pokémon Sword and Pokémon Shield. Games rated E for everyone.